Well, here we are again for another 5 question testimony, and I'm joined today by someone amazingly that I have known my whole life, and that's my mum. Hi, Mum. How are you?
Hi, Paul. I'm fine, thank you.
Well, I don't know about you. It feels a little bit strange to me, sat here and asking you things that actually I probably already know. There might be some surprises though, so we'll have to see how we go. But let me just start by asking where you grew up.
I grew up in Bournemouth, spent the first part of my life there, went to school, obviously, and I went to the same school, incidentally, as Stella Amos, Anne Broom and Christine Leach. So we're all old girls of Bournemouth School. After school, I went to work in the Borough Treasurer's Department for Bournemouth Council, and after a year or so, I left and moved to Lloyds Bank. I can't say I enjoyed it much there. There's nothing really very rewarding in looking after other people's money. But in those days, when you had your first child, it was expected that you stopped work. And just for a few years even, that suited me really well. So obviously in this time I'd met and married Gordon, and then when son number one was born, I left work and really had a really great time, thank you. And then after a few years, son number two arrived, and then when he was just a few months old, we moved to Morriston in Swansea in South Wales, and we had an amazing 4 years there. It was fun, it was absolutely great. The Welsh were really welcoming and friendly, and it was a great time. And while we were there, Prince Charles was invested as the Prince of Wales. One memory I have which stands out very clearly is that Morriston itself is in the valley. We lived halfway up what to me was a mountain. They probably said it was a large hill, but it was a long way up. And they had what they called a Gymanfa there, which really is a big sing-song. And it was led by the Morriston Orpheus Choir. And in the evening that happened, we went out onto our front garden, a lot of neighbours there, and although it was some distance away, we could hear this sound of singing just rising up through the valley, and it was absolutely amazing. So that stands out in my memory very much. After 4 years there, work moved us back to Bournemouth, and we were only there for a short time before, in 1972, we came to Dorchester, and I absolutely love living here.
That's great, and wonderful times in Wales. The bit you did forget to mention was probably one of the big highlights of living in Wales, was that your son number 3 was born, and that's me. So there we go.
So sorry, Paul.
So, Mum, you and Dad and us 3 boys moved to Dorchester, and I myself have very fond memories of moving here when I was about 7. And you're obviously involved in church, but maybe just going back a little bit before that, how did you come to know Christ?
I came down a well-trodden path, really. Sunday school, youth group, friendships, teaching, building up of knowledge and convictions, so that when it got to, I suppose, my late teen years, I asked God to control my life. And it was a momentous decision in lots of ways. But looking back now through the years, I do appreciate that was really just the start. And I think so often we get it a little bit confused. You give your life to Jesus, no turning back, whereas life really doesn't work out quite like that. And, there have been times when I've stepped from the path, or I've been tempted or distracted. And perversely, these aren't the times when things are really difficult. because then I'm very conscious of God's presence. But it's the time when we get comfortable and we relax a bit. We perhaps pat ourselves on the back. Things are going fine, I'm doing all right, and neglect really the important things. And I've felt the need so often to go back to that original decision and review. And just lately I've been following I suppose it's just a study of meeting God meeting God again for the first time. And that really resonates with me because, as I say, I've needed so many times to go back to that original starting point and to just have a fresh awakening and an excitement, really, even at my age, and just to reconnect, really.
That's great. That's really helpful, actually, to hear that very honest reflection on what it is to journey with Christ and to journey with Christ for so many years. And just maybe you could just let people know what sort of things you enjoy doing in your spare time.
Yeah, I wish I could tell you I had some fascinating hobby or, some talent that you don't know about. But sadly, that's not so. But I love to walk. Not as far or as quickly as I once did, but I love to be out in the open air, in the countryside, fields, the woods. I love sunsets, the night sky, any of these things. I really feel my spirit's uplifted, and that is really where I worship, more so than sun worship. It's just being in God's creation, and I really like that. I read a lot. I do puzzles, as you know, very often with one eye on the puzzles and one on the TV. I like to bake. I don't do it too often because living on my own, if I bake, I eat. I think that's about it.
So here we are, just over 4 months into lockdown, and I just wonder, how has the whole COVID-19 thing been affecting you?
Well, apart from the awfulness of it and the ongoing awfulness of it worldwide, personally it's been a bit of a roller coaster experience. There have been days when I've been lonely. A day on my own I'm very happy with, but 2 or 3 days, not really seeing it to anybody and having a decent conversation, can be a little bit depressing. But on the other hand, I've been very blessed. I've been very well looked after. It's been lovely to have Megan, my granddaughter, home, and she has been doing my shopping. She's been doing it so well that she believes now she could write the list for me because she knows exactly what I want each week, which is lovely. I've also very fortunate that I have a garden and that I have been able to, especially latterly, to see friends in the garden, keeping a social distance, but it's just been lovely to be able to meet with people after so long, and I'm really looking forward to that getting back to as near normal as it can be.
So to finish, I just wonder if there's a piece of scripture that you would just like to share with us today.
Yes, there is. I think, to be honest, Paul, this is the hardest question you've asked me. I have been through and I have got quotes from this and that, but I've just come up with this at the end because it just signifies it's at the basis of everything that we think and believe and that we do. So it's just a couple of verses from John 15. It says, "As the Father has loved me, so have I loved you. Now remain in my love. If you obey my commands, you will remain in my love, just as I have obeyed my Father's commands and remain in his love. I have told you this so that my joy may be in you and that your joy may be complete. My command is this: love each other as I have loved you."
That's great. That's a wonderful way to finish our short time together. Thank you so much for allowing me to come and video you, as strange as it has seemed, but thank you so much.
Yes, it has seemed strange, Paul, but thank you.
Get the kettle on now, Mum. We'll have a cup of tea.
Sure.